Welcome to the 2021 Jacksonville Jaguars Schedule Review. John Oehser, Brian Sexton, Ashlyn Sullivan, and J.P. Shadrick will guide you through the 2021 Jaguars schedule game by game with expert analysis and insight. Now, to get things started, here's J.P. Shadrick.
Welcome into the 2021 Schedule Review presented by Dreamfinders Homes. J.P. Shadrick and full team coverage of the Schedule Review. It came out last night on NFL Network and Jaguars.com, joined by Ashlyn Sullivan, Brian Sexton, and John Oehser. Well, let's not wait any longer. Let's get right into it. The Jaguars schedule for 2021 and start off with the first quarter of the season. The Jaguars begin on the road in Houston against the Texans. Then the Denver Broncos come to TIAA Bank Field week 2. Kyler Murray, J.J. Watt, and the Cardinals come in here on week 3, September 26th. And then a short week, Thursday night football against the Cincinnati Bengals. And, John, that is a fantastic quarterback matchup. Joe Burrow against Trevor Lawrence.
Well, you figured that they would put Trevor Lawrence against one of these young quarterbacks. Number one year, number one the next year makes perfect sense. I think what caught my eye, too, this is a chance, on paper at least, for the Jaguars to get off to a good start. There are no teams in that first quarter that had a winning record last season. That doesn't guarantee anything, but who knows? Coming out of that Bengals game, if you're 500 or better, Schlin, that's, I think, what they're looking for.
Yeah, optimistically, you could even make the argument maybe you win 3 out of those 4 games. And frankly, when I looked at this schedule, I wanted to see how many young quarterback matchups the NFL would pair. And Jaguars fans, this is what you should be most excited about, is that you are now in this conversation. The entire week of the Bengals game, they're going to talk about Joe Burrow versus Trevor Lawrence. Brian, we've waited so long to be here, and it's just the beginning. You have 5-6 matchups like this the entire year of young quarterbacks going head-to-head.
I think the NFL gave Urban Meyer and Trevor Lawrence and Shad Khan a gift. Here's a nice way to get started. You face Tyrod Taylor and follow that up with Drew Lock. I mean, it's not like you're getting Tom Brady and Ben Roethlisberger. So there are good opportunities there, and the schedule rolls right through. Remember, Joe Burrow was playing well last year before he got hurt in the 10th game. But he's still a young quarterback, and it's a primetime game there. So, yeah, you could look at that game and say, sure, if the Jaguars are playing well, they can go and win that one. But then you get into October, JP, and the schedule is still pretty, it's good. There's opportunities for the Jaguars in the second month of the season as well. So if they make hay early, then they can take advantage perhaps of October.
Let's get to October in the second quarter of the season, and the logistics team has some work to do here. Home against Tennessee. A home game, but in London in Week 6 against the Miami Dolphins at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in North London, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Week 7 is the bye week for the Jags. And then Week 8, it's on to Seattle, a 4:05 Eastern Time start. That is the cocktail party weekend here at TIAA Bank Field, Brian. So, yes, a lot of travel to be done in this quarter.
Without a doubt. But you're in your stadiums. I guess Tottenham doesn't count as your stadium like Wembley did, but you have your fans there because of the Union Jacks fan club that's there. So you're home for most of the month of October, it would seem. And that's an advantage for a young football team that needs that bit of momentum. And if they can build it in September, there's an opportunity for them to capitalize on it in October.
What do you think, John, about this second quarter of the season? Russell Wilson and the Seahawks, that's a long trip after an even longer trip to London 2 weeks before.
I'm here on my home set, and maybe from my distance, I'm just seeing things differently than Brian. I see October as really, really tough. You've got the Seahawks, who might have the best quarterback in the league, or one of them in Russell Wilson. Miami, to me, felt like a team on the rise that's going to be good for a while, very good. And Tennessee, we all know what a tough matchup it's been. You know, this is also the stretch, I think I've got the math right, 5 straight games starting with that Tennessee game against teams that had winning records. I hope Brian's right. I hope there's some opportunities, but it looks tough to me. That's a tough stretch, Ashlyn.
It is, and I have all eyes on that London game against the Dolphins, and people think the Dolphins, like you said, are on the rise, and everyone expects them to be really promising this season. The Jaguars haven't won in London since 2017. I'm really excited for this matchup. Tua Tagovailoa versus Trevor Lawrence. We all remember that 2019 national championship game, a rematch, but it's a tough task for Trevor Lawrence to go to London and that rematch be there, of course.
Let's move along to the second half of the season. There's not a true half. There are 17 games this year, but Week 9, that stretch against winning teams from last year continues. The Bills come to town, a 1 o'clock kickoff. Then it's at the Colts in Week 10. The San Francisco 49ers will play an early body clock game for them, 1 o'clock Eastern time on the 21st of November, Week 11 here in Jacksonville. Then the Atlanta Falcons come to town. Then it's on to L.A., December 5th, Week 13, Jalen Ramsey and the Los Angeles Rams await Ashlyn. Well, let's hope it's not a revenge game.
Yeah, and thankfully you have 4 games before that where that'll be the talk of the town. And it's hard with the 17 game. To me, it just feels like, John, the schedule is way longer. I know it's only 1 extra game, but to me, you're looking at this list and you're like, dang, this is a long season.
Yeah, this is where it gets long. And I think for the Rams, maybe it's a revenge game for the Jaguars against Jalen. Yeah, I'm not sure how that'll work. I see this second stretch as a continuation of that second quarter, meaning this third stretch. Really only 1 game against a team that I would consider a lot of experts are going to question coming into this year. San Francisco, which is the 3rd game of that stretch, I think they're going to be a lot better. They feel like they're going to be healthier. They feel like they're going to have their quarterback situation better, I would think. It could be the Trey Lance Bowl or the Trey Lance Trevor Lawrence Bowl. You know, these middle 2 stretches to me are really, really tough. If they can come out of here okay, maybe, but you know, those 9 games or those 8 games, difficult to me.
Yeah, see, this is where the teeth came into the schedule as far as I'm concerned, because you have 3 powerhouse teams from last year, Buffalo, Indy, and the Rams. And don't forget that the Niners were largely upended by injuries, especially to their defensive front last year. So they could turn things around in a hurry and be back to where they were at the conclusion of 2019, which was deep into the playoffs. I don't know what to make of Atlanta, but Matt Ryan can still throw, and you add Kyle Pitts to Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, and it's going to pressure your defense. This, to me, was that treacherous part of the schedule. The playoff teams separate themselves in the month of November.
On to the stretch run, December and January for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Week 14 at Tennessee. The second look at Derrick Henry and the Titans for the season. The Texans come to town in Week 15 at the New York Jets. Could it be Zach Wilson against Trevor Lawrence? We'll find out the day after Christmas. Then the new year, January 2nd at New England. That is never an easy place to play anyway, especially late in the season, and especially January 2nd against the Patriots. January 9th, Week 18, the Jaguars finish at home against the Indianapolis Colts. And, you know, I'm really looking forward, Brian, to this Jets-Jaguars matchup if the quarterbacks play that deep.
Yeah, you know, and if those quarterbacks are playing well and their teams look markedly improved, don't be surprised if that isn't a game that gets flexed to Monday night. This is the first year that they're allowing teams to be flexed from a Sunday game to a Monday night game, and perhaps that's one, because of the New York marketplace and because of the 2 quarterbacks, you might see that game go. Now, if both teams are, you know, looking at 3 or 4 wins at that point, probably not. But if they're playing well, that's a game that I think you might see.
Ashlyn, what do you like down the stretch here?
Looking at this block right here, the thing that stands out is obvious. It's the 3 divisional games, and you're walking around the building here and you're seeing AFC South signs around this building. There's a big emphasis right now on the division and winning that division. So right here in this stretch, that's got to be it. And you look at the Houston Texans and you think, all right, you know, you're starting Week 1. What's going on with Deshaun Watson? I don't think you can make that a gimme. Frankly, the division as a whole is really competitive. So I'm looking at those 3 games, John.
Yeah, I guess the difference to me between 5 and 4 is a lot, because these last 2 graphics, in years past, these were always 4-game graphics, and now all of a sudden it's 5, and this is just going to be a long final quarter of the season. You wonder if players will start to feel that 17th game at this point. That's kind of what I'm going to be watching. As far as the Jets, I was a little surprised, frankly, that the Jaguars only got 1 primetime game. I thought they might get 2. I thought that Jets game might be in September with a primetime matchup between those two quarterbacks. Once I saw that it was in December, I wasn't surprised because they weren't going to risk having a primetime game between two teams that struggled last year. But that was the surprise to me, that the Jets game wasn't earlier in the season, guys.
So the Jaguars will wrap up the regular season with 11 consecutive weeks of games after the early short week and the mini bye, and then the regular bye, of course, right before the Halloween contest coming up in October. So, of course, also there's preseason games that have been announced. The Jaguars will host the Cleveland Browns. They'll go to the Saints for a Monday night game, and then at the Dallas Cowboys as well. But the Jaguars' regular season schedule is announced: 17 games for the 2021 season, and single game tickets are on sale now. You can visit Jaguars.com, click tickets, or call 904-633-2000. For our entire crew, Brian Sexton, Ashlyn Sullivan, John Oehser, I'm JP Shadrick. Thank you for watching the 2021 Schedule Review presented by Dream Finders Homes.